In a country where fame can rise and fall at a breathtaking pace, few names shined as brightly or as quietly as Liu Shishi, the actress once hailed as China's most untouchable sweetheart. For years, her serene image dominated screens from Beijing to Shanghai, carefully crafted to perfection, untouched by the chaos that swallowed so many other celebrities. Yet in 2019, something happened that no one in the industry could explain. One day, she was everywhere. The next, she was simply gone. No scandal was ever announced. No official explanation was given. No public meltdown, no social media war, no crisis to justify her disappearance. Just a sudden silence that felt too controlled, too deliberate, too engineered to ignore. And the question that has haunted fans for years remains the same. What forces could make one of China's most beloved stars vanish overnight? To understand what really happened to Liu Shishi, you have to look beyond the polished performances and carefully curated public image. Because behind that calm elegance lies a world of hidden negotiations, shifting alliances and power structures that the public was never meant to see. Her story is not a simple case of stepping away from fame. It is a story of influence, loyalty, industry pressure, and a silence so absolute it raised more questions than answers. What was protected? Who benefited? And why did a woman loved by millions suddenly vanish from a world built on visibility? The disappearance of Liu Shishi did not begin with a public scandal or a dramatic announcement. It began with a silence so precise that insiders immediately sensed something was wrong. In early 2019, at the height of her popularity, she completed a major drama that should have propelled her into yet another wave of national attention. Instead, the promotion cycle suddenly stalled. Interviews were canceled. Press conferences were quietly scaled down. Major fashion brands that once featured her in every campaign began shifting to new faces without explanation. People inside Beijing's entertainment circles whispered that something had changed behind closed doors, but no one knew exactly what. What made the industry freeze around a woman who was known for being the safest, calmest, least controversial figure of her generation? Part of the mystery lies in how meticulously Liu Shishi's public persona had been managed for over a decade. Unlike many Chinese celebrities whose rise to fame depended on aggressive marketing or fan-driven hype, she represented an older, almost classical form of stardom. Elegant, restrained, rooted in her background as a trained dancer from the Beijing Dance Academy. But the more spotless her image became, the more pressure built around her. In a market increasingly driven by online traffic, she remained one of the few major stars who refused to play by the new rules. No constant live streams, no viral stunts, no artificial fan wars. And while the public admired her authenticity, powerful stakeholders behind the scenes watched the numbers and wondered whether an actress who resisted the traffic economy could survive in an industry that had transformed into a battlefield of clicks and algorithms. Her marriage to Nicky Wu, a figure with long-standing connections and a reputation for being fiercely protective of his privacy, added another layer to the silence that followed. Although publicly presented as a fairy tale union, their partnership also meant that decisions about her work, contracts, and appearances flowed through a tightly controlled inner circle. This barrier made it nearly impossible for outsiders to know what was happening when the first signs of retreat appeared. And as the industry shifted toward a new wave of younger stars, many began to question whether she was choosing to step back, or whether forces surrounding her career were quietly pushing her out of the spotlight. Then came the turning point, an unspoken standoff between traditional celebrity culture and the rapidly evolving power of China's digital platforms. When several major actresses were pressured to increase online engagement, fans noticed that Liu Shishi did the opposite. Her activity slowed. Her team grew even more selective about partnerships. Projects were postponed without rescheduling. Something had disrupted the momentum of a woman who had once been considered one of the few invincible faces of Chinese entertainment. And the more she retreated, the louder the questions grew. Was she being sidelined? Was she protecting something? Or was she preparing to withdraw from an industry that had become increasingly volatile? Whatever the truth was, one fact became unavoidable by the end of 2019. The silence around Liu Shishi was no longer a coincidence. It was a pattern. A pattern so deliberate that it marked the beginning of a disappearance no one could articulate, yet everyone could feel. To understand why Liu Shishi vanished so abruptly, you have to look beyond her public persona and into the intricate power structures quietly shaping China's entertainment industry during the late 2010s. The silence surrounding her wasn't the kind that comes from burnout or a personal decision to step away. It was the kind that appears when several layers of influence, agencies, capital groups, streaming platforms, and industry regulators, begin to shift in ways that leave certain stars without a clear path forward. And the deeper you look into that moment, the clearer it becomes that Liu Shishi's retreat coincided with a dramatic redistribution of power that swept through Beijing's entertainment world. For years, Liu Shishi was one of the rare actresses who survived the rise of the traffic star era, without relying on the aggressive fan manipulation tactics that dominated the time. She didn't buy trends, she didn't push sensational content, and she didn't engage in the kind of high-volume online presence that helped other celebrities secure endorsements and secure favorable relationships with major streaming platforms. In an industry suddenly driven by algorithmic metrics, daily clicks, repost counts, fan engagement levels, her low-noise approach became a double-edged sword. Admirers saw it as authenticity. Decision-makers saw it as declining market value. And when the platforms began favoring stars who could generate constant online heat, a quiet actress who refused to play the numbers game became much harder to position. Compounding this was the influence of her husband, Nicky Wu, a figure respected for his longevity, but also known for operating with extreme privacy and strict control. Industry insiders whispered for years that he preferred fewer projects, fewer risks, and fewer external players around his wife's career. Whether this was driven by protection or strategy remained unclear, but what mattered was the effect. Her circle tightened, leaving less space for negotiation with major studios and investors. And in a time when platforms like Tencent, Ikai, and Youku were fighting intensely for traffic supremacy, the refusal to engage in high-velocity promotion created tensions that no one openly acknowledged but everyone felt. Then came the broader shockwave that altered the entire landscape. The 2018 to 2020 crackdown on inflated celebrity salaries, fan culture excess, and capital manipulation in the entertainment sector. This was the period when high-profile names were suddenly restricted. Productions were paused, and certain stars were effectively frozen by new regulations. Even though Liu Shishi was not involved in any scandal, her profile fit a category the regulators were increasingly cautious about: established stars with large commercial value, but low online compliance with the new digital engagement standards. The industry's shift toward politically safe, algorithm-friendly, platform-driven stars left many traditional actresses in precarious positions, and Liu Shishi, known for staying above the noise, found herself caught between a fading model of celebrity and a system that demanded constant visibility. At the same time, Beijing studios began leaning heavily toward younger, more digitally active performers who could guarantee explosive social media traction. Projects that once would have gone to established actresses like her were now offered to newcomers who played directly into the traffic economy. This was not a punishment, but a market recalibration, an invisible hand pushing older stars to adapt or step aside. The problem was that Liu Shishi's brand was built on restraint, not adaptation. She couldn't suddenly transform into a live stream personality without shattering the identity that had sustained her for over a decade. And so she did the only thing that aligned with her image. She stayed silent. But the silence created unintended consequences. Because she refused to reveal anything, theories filled the vacuum. Fans argued that Nikki Wu was too controlling. Critics speculated that her agency structure placed her at a disadvantage as younger stars reshaped the industry. Others believed she was quietly pushed aside to make room for new state-preferred faces. And although none of these claims were ever confirmed, the timing of her disappearance aligned too perfectly with industry upheavals for it to be coincidence. By the time 2020 arrived, it was clear that her retreat wasn't just personal. It was systemic, a byproduct of the forces reshaping Chinese entertainment from the inside out. All of this set the stage for the most intriguing question of her entire disappearance. If she wasn't forced out by scandal, and if she didn't step away willingly, then what exactly was happening behind the scenes? And why did every major industry shift seem to push her further from the spotlight instead of pulling her back in? If industry pressure explained part of Liu Shishi's disappearance, her marriage to Nikki Wu deepened the mystery. For years, the couple had been hailed as one of the most stable pairs in Chinese entertainment, a rare partnership built on privacy rather than publicity. But the same silence that protected their relationship soon became the very thing that fueled speculation about her retreat. And the industry's inability to penetrate their inner circle only intensified the rumors. What exactly was happening behind the doors of a marriage so carefully sealed that even seasoned reporters in Beijing couldn't get near it? From the beginning, the public viewed the relationship through a lens of imbalance. Nikki Wu, significantly older and a veteran in the industry, was known for being fiercely independent and extremely protective of his personal territory. His reputation as a disciplined, business-oriented figure contrasted sharply with Liu Shishi's softness and calm. And even though fans embraced the romance, insiders quietly questioned how much influence he held over her career choices. After their 2015 wedding, her team shifted, her work rhythm slowed, and major decisions appeared increasingly centralized around a handful of people close to him. Whether these changes were voluntary or strategic remained unclear, but the result was the same. She became harder to reach, harder to book, and harder to track. Then came their most consequential decision, the formation of their joint company, Poetry and Beyond, Dao Chao Xiong. On paper, it was a smart move, a way for them to consolidate resources, manage projects directly, and build long-term equity. But in practice, the company's structure raised questions. Nikki Wu held the controlling stake, while Liu Shishi became the symbolic face. Some industry insiders wondered whether this dynamic limited her freedom rather than expanding it. When the company began taking on more commercial risks, including large-scale drama investments, critics questioned whether her career was being used to stabilize corporate ventures rather than being protected for artistic longevity. Around 2018, the shift became more visible. Her projects were fewer and more strategically chosen, but not necessarily aligned with trends that kept other actresses relevant. She turned down high-paying endorsements. She rarely appeared on major variety shows that could have boosted her visibility. And she avoided the live stream economy entirely, even as brands begged her to join. Each refusal strengthened her image as a woman of principles, but it also deepened her isolation in an industry built on visibility. People began to wonder, was she stepping back because she wanted to, or because her marriage, layered with business ties, made it easier for her to be shielded from outside influence? The speculation grew louder after the birth of their son in 2019, precisely when her disappearance began. While motherhood was presented as her reason for retreating, insiders observed something more complex, a shift in her public agency. Instead of using her comeback opportunities to re-enter the spotlight with force, as many actresses do after giving birth, she pulled even further away. Interviews were limited, social media posts were sparse, and, most tellingly, a series of investments tied to Poetry and Beyond placed Nikki Wu at the center of financial control, while her image continued to anchor the brand from the outside. The question many asked, but no major outlet dared to print, was simple. Was Liu Shishi protecting her marriage, or was her marriage quietly dictating the terms of her career? At the same time, Chinese forums began circulating unverified rumors about disagreements between her team and external investors who wanted her to participate more aggressively in promotions. Users pointed out that she often appeared exhausted at public events, a stark contrast from her earlier years. Whether these whispers contained truth or were fueled by fan anxiety remained unknown. But the disappearance that followed only made them harder to ignore. And because Liu Shishi never addressed the rumors, the silence became its own form of confirmation in the minds of many. By the time 2020 arrived, the marriage that once symbolized stability had become the focal point of speculation. Was she being protected from the chaos of the industry? Was she quietly withdrawing because she didn't want to compete in the new digital era? Or was she simply the most visible casualty of a relationship where privacy came before public relevance? If power dynamics within her marriage contributed to her retreat, then the next factor made her absence feel even more deliberate. The way China's entertainment system tightened, reshaping who was allowed to be visible and who quietly disappeared. As questions about Liu Shishi's marriage grew louder, another force was forming around her, one far larger, colder, and more systematic than anything happening in her personal life. Beginning in late 2018 and intensifying through 2020 to 2021, China launched one of the most sweeping entertainment crackdowns in its modern history. The purpose was straightforward: restructure the industry, rein in celebrity excess, and regain control over a sector that had grown too loud, too wealthy, and too influential for regulators' comfort. But behind the official language lay a more complex reality. Certain stars were pushed forward, others were quietly erased, and the criteria for survival shifted from popularity and talent to risk level and political reassurance. And in that new landscape, someone like Liu Shishi, who built her career on serenity rather than noise, suddenly found herself occupying a very fragile middle ground. The crackdown didn't target her directly. She had no scandals, no tax violations, no political missteps. She wasn't part of the traffic star system that had spiraled into chaos. And she didn't belong to the high-income bracket that triggered the first waves of scrutiny. But the new standards demanded more than just a clean record. They required visible alignment with the evolving direction of China's cultural narrative. Stars needed to remain active, positive, and engaged in the digital sphere. They were expected to participate in state campaigns, appear in live streams supporting national initiatives, reinforce newly promoted social values, and maintain a consistent online presence to stabilize public opinion. Silence, once seen as elegance, was suddenly seen as a red flag. Liu Shishi, however, remained almost entirely silent. She did not chase trending topics. She did not participate in major online campaigns. She did not flood social media with daily content. Instead, she maintained the same distance she had always kept, a distance that once protected her, but now placed her outside the industry's new expectations. Regulators wanted predictability and visibility. Streaming platforms wanted guaranteed engagement. Capital groups wanted viral faces. And in the middle of that new ecosystem stood an actress known for doing the exact opposite of what the system now demanded. This didn't mean she was blacklisted, far from it. Instead, she became something more ambiguous. A star who wasn't punished but wasn't promoted either. A name too clean to target but too quiet to prioritize. Entertainment executives describe this category privately as soft freezing, a state where projects are not denied but not actively supported, where opportunities exist but are not amplified. And for someone whose career depended on selective, high-quality roles rather than constant output, even a mild decrease in momentum could create a landslide. Adding to this was the rise of algorithm-driven casting. Streaming giants such as Tencent Video, iQIYI, and Youku increasingly relied on real-time data to determine who should lead high-budget dramas. The metrics that shape those decisions, fan engagement, hashtag velocity, audience retention, search ranking, were never Liu Shishi's strengths, In fact, her very refusal to participate in this digital battlefield placed her at a disadvantage. Younger actresses with high-volume fan armies surged ahead, not because they had more talent, but because the system rewarded noise over nuance. And in a world fueled by numbers, silence became indistinguishable from decline. Behind the scenes, investors grew hesitant. Brands began shifting to stars who could generate instant online traction. Producers needed leads who could guarantee explosive promotional windows. And while Liu Shishi maintained respect was no longer enough to secure dominance in a market where the algorithm was king. Slowly, quietly, the industry stopped pushing her forward. She didn't fall from grace. She simply faded from relevance in a system that no longer valued the qualities that made her unique. Yet there was something else, something even more intriguing beneath the surface. Multiple sources within the Beijing industry recalled that during this crackdown period, internal discussions often categorized celebrities into risk groups. Those who had large commercial value but small digital footprints, like Liu Shishi, were labeled unpredictable, not because they posed political danger, but because their silence made them difficult to read. In other words, a star with no controversies could become a problem for one simple reason. No one knew how she would react if the winds shifted. By the time 2021 passed, the industry had fully reshaped itself and Liu Shishi had not returned. She released no major statements. She avoided every wave of online drama. She took no shortcuts to reclaim the spotlight. Her name drifted into a strange space, respected but absent, safe but sidelined, beloved but increasingly distant. If the marriage created the vacuum and the market changes intensified it, then the entertainment crackdown sealed it. And once the system settled, another question emerged, one that fans whispered with growing unease. If the industry was no longer pushing her out, why wasn't she coming back? By the time the industry finished reshaping itself, observers expected Liu Shishi to make a decisive move, either a carefully orchestrated comeback or a public announcement stepping away from fame. But she did neither. Instead, she embraced a level of silence that felt almost choreographed. For a woman once present on every major billboard and drama poster across China, her retreat seemed too complete, too polished, and too consistent to be accidental. And the longer she stayed quiet, the more her disappearance began to resemble a deliberate strategy hidden behind an ordinary life. The question was no longer why she vanished, but what her silence was protecting. What stood out to insiders was how perfectly aligned her withdrawal was with moments of turbulence around her. When Poetry and Beyond, the company she shared with Nikki Wu, faced unstable market performance, she made no public moves. When the entertainment crackdown reshuffled industry hierarchies, she disappeared entirely. When younger actresses flooded the market with aggressive online presence, she did not compete. And when fans speculated about tensions within the marriage, she offered no reassurance, no denial, and no counter-narrative. The consistency of her silence made one thing clear. She was not retreating because she failed. She was retreating because retreat served a purpose. Some industry observers believe that Liu Shishi's silence was a way to preserve her brand value. By avoiding overexposure in a chaotic market, she kept her image intact. In an era where countless celebrities collapsed under scandals, she remained untouched, untarnished, and uncontroversial. From a strategic standpoint, disappearing allowed her to remain clean real estate, a face that could still return without the baggage of trending controversies. This idea gained traction, especially after several major stars fell due to tax issues, political missteps, or online manipulation. In a landscape where one wrong statement could end a career overnight, silence became a form of survival. Others suggested a deeper, more personal layer. Liu Shishi may have chosen to step away to protect the equilibrium of her marriage. Not because she was forced, but because public scrutiny had begun shifting toward the financial and managerial decisions tied to Nikki Wu. The company's fluctuating performance, rumored disagreements with investors, and pressure from digital platforms meant that any major appearance from her would ignite new speculation. For a couple built on privacy, maintaining distance from the spotlight may have been their way of shielding their home life from external pressure. And if that was the case, her disappearance was not silence, it was insulation. Yet another theory centered on her temperament. Unlike many of her contemporaries, Liu Shishi never sought dominance or visibility for its own sake. She was an introvert in an extroverted industry, a traditional artist thrust into an economy ruled by online theatrics. While other stars adapted by live streaming products or engaging in trending topics, she remained anchored in the world she came from, a world where acting skills mattered more than digital numbers. For someone with that mindset, the rapidly shifting environment of 2020 to 2022 may have felt less like an opportunity and more like an invasion. The industry demanded that she transform into something she never wanted to become. And instead of bending to the system, she simply walked away from it. Then came the most intriguing pattern. Every time the industry or media tried to pull her back into the conversation, her team responded with the same tactic: minimal visibility, controlled messaging, and strategic absence. When a drama needed promotion, she appeared briefly, gracefully, and quietly. She never overperformed, never chased virality, and never capitalized on emotional moments. These appearances only deepened the mystery. How did a woman who refused to play the digital game still command such loyal fascination? Why did audiences, from Beijing to New York, remain fixated on a star who gave them almost nothing? Because in the end, silence itself became her scandal. It made her an anomaly in a world built on attention. The more she refused to explain her disappearance, the more the public projected meaning onto it. She became a mirror reflecting the anxieties of an industry in transition. The fear of losing relevance, the fear of overexposure, and the fear of visibility in a system where visibility could be dangerous. Whether intentional or not, her silence challenged China's entertainment logic, revealing just how fragile fame could be when stripped of noise. Today, fans still ask the same question: why did Liu Shishi vanish overnight? And while the surface-level explanations point to motherhood, market shifts, or personal choice, the truth feels far more layered. She disappeared because the system changed. She disappeared because the pressure around her intensified. She disappeared because silence protected what mattered most. And she disappeared because, in a world obsessed with being seen, the most powerful move she could make was to stop showing up. In the end, the disappearance of Liu Shishi remains one of the most quietly unsettling mysteries in modern Chinese entertainment. She didn't fall from grace. She didn't cause a scandal. She didn't break the rules. Instead, she slipped away without warning, without explanation, and without leaving a trace of the chaos that usually surrounds a star's retreat. In a world where visibility is currency, her absence became more powerful than her presence. It forced people to confront an uncomfortable truth. Sometimes, the most dramatic stories unfold not through explosive revelations, but through the spaces where no explanation is given. Her silence continues to echo across an industry that once relied on her calm elegance to balance its extremes. Even now, when her name resurfaces in discussions, whether in Beijing, Shanghai, or among international fans in the United States, the conversation always returns to the same unanswered question: what could make a superstar vanish overnight? The theories may differ, but the uncertainty remains the same. Maybe she stepped away to preserve her identity. Maybe she retreated to protect her family. Or maybe she simply refused to participate in an environment that had turned celebrity into a relentless performance. Whatever the reason, her disappearance left a shadow larger than any scandal ever could. It exposed how quickly an industry can shift, how easily a legacy can be rewritten, and how fragile even the brightest star becomes when silence is the only evidence remaining. And until the day Liu Shishi chooses to speak, if she ever does, the world is left with a story defined not by what was revealed, but by everything she chose not to say.